Mhm. Okay, so in this video, I'm going to take a look at the miners. I'll start off with gold, silver, then the GDX GDXJ very quickly because I covered that just now in a video I just did. And then I'll follow up by looking at my portfolio and then some like 6 or 7 juniors on my watch list to buy next if there's a drop, actually. I don't think I'm going to be buying them just now, although some of them are very low, but still, this is in case of a drop, something to look forward to. It's like a psychological hedge for myself. And then I'll follow up by I'll end, sorry, by looking at a bunch of miners. I've got loads of juniors on my watch list. Too many. That's why I like to have a little section, as I think I call them, elite miners, or at least the ones on my watch list. So it's just going to be miners galore because that's what I like. That's the asset I like to buy the most. I like to sell it too, but I haven't sold nearly enough. And I think, a lot of the people that follow me also like the miners. So I'll start off very quickly with gold and silver. Now, gold is just hovering sideways. Obviously, a lot depends. For me, in my opinion, it's a lot depends on the dollar. And a lot depends on the banking crisis specifically, because we saw gold go up very quickly as the banking crisis unfolded. So if we start to have, and I think First Republic is toast on Monday, but I think what happens next is more dominoes. So we'll have another bank. If we have a big bank, Lord forbid, something like Deutsche Bank, the next Credit Suisse, it should have gone down before Credit Suisse, but Deutsche Bank or another senior bank of the same caliber, or just one or two smaller regional banks. I mean, look what happened to Silicon Valley. That just led gold all the way up here. So basically, if the banking crisis resumes, or gets exacerbated, then I think gold goes up. If the dollar starts to flush, right, we got the dollar at 101, 101 or 100.8, holding this sort of zone, 100.8/101. Was this a fake breakout and then we roll over? Or maybe there's a small breakout and we roll over. But the point is, if the dollar does not make a massive move to 105.5 or higher, then I think gold should be able to hold this zone and break higher. If we move up a little bit, maybe we will see gold come back down. So let me now start to cover the different zones. You can see them here. They're mainly horizontal lines. I used to have some ascending, but they're now obsolete. So, very basic 1970s, low 1970s seems to be support. We have some nice tails here. These are daily candles. On the upside, 2010, all right, 2010 seems to be resistance. So a close above 2010 should lead us straight to 2050. And a close below 1970, definitely 1970, we should accelerate a move down, 1950, then 1930, 1935. And if we break lower than 1935, then I think I used to have some other horizontals, but I don't think they would count at that point. I think we'd have a bit of a head and shoulders breakdown and then ascending support that should hold. Should it not hold, then I can start drawing in some new horizontal lines, probably 80 zone, and then even 1860, old breakout zone. It still would be a bullish chart, by the way, but that'd be quite the drop. And I'd be looking to buy miners during this drop, especially if we go to 1930 and below. Because for me, the thesis on gold is almost bulletproof. I mean, nothing is blah, blah, blah. But if inflation gets worse, gold is a great hedge. It's supposed to be. If inflation does not get worse, then the markets boom again, gold included. I mean, if the banking crisis unfolds, gold is good. If the wars get worse, gold is good. And that's just, now we're talking dollars. I mean, in all the other currencies, gold is basically a new all-time high. So for me, the case is done. I mean, you got to think about it. The markets are nowhere near all-time highs. Gold is. Silver is just the laggard. So that's just gonna, I think gold, once it's at 2,100, silver starts to run to 30. Really, it will start to really outpace gold and the miners also. So silver, just to speak on silver since I'm here, upside, there's only one resistance. That's the old high, $26. A close above that, we race to 27 and 28 probably the next day. I've seen silver do crazy moves. So, close above 26 is 27, 28. And then 30, I expect quite a bit of resistance, like maybe the first candle with a massive resistance wick, a bit like here. But eventually, after a retracement, a breakout, obviously by then it depends on what's going on elsewhere, interest rates, dollar, gold, markets, geopolitics, etc. On the downside, if we start to close below 2450, so this line should really be there, then I think descending support. And silver has been pretty strong on the drops. It's sort of, I've seen days where gold is down more than silver. That's very bullish for the whole sector, but obviously silver especially. I also like what I'm seeing currently now. I don't like to get too zoomed in, but I like this here. A little breakout above this, by the way, should lead us straight to 26. But yeah, a break down below, a test of this descending. I need to make all these lines the same thickness. I'm starting to adopt the thinner line because I can be more precise. The thicker ones are more visible, but I think you can still see the thin ones. So, but anyway, if we break below 2450, then I start to see, it depends when it happens. The time element comes in, but let's say 24, it's also a nice number. We may just go below that, but it depends where the close is, remember. Otherwise, yeah, 23.5. To be honest, silver is sometimes quite simple because it's usually, very often, not usually, round numbers like 23, 22.5, 22. So it doesn't need to be too complicated. If we have a break below and a big flush, like a break below 23.5, I don't even think we'd get to the ascending. Silver has been really strong. Down here was super strong. I don't think we'll ever see 18 again. Never say never, but I'm just going to say never for that. If we do have a big drop, I think the ascending will be very strong support if we even get there. So I think at that point, you probably have to look at gold to judge where silver goes. If gold is finding support on this ascending, silver will probably never hit its own ascending. So, it's a bit like the market. Sometimes you have to look at the Nasdaq or in this case today, the S&P and the Dow, who have resistance very close by, to know when the Nasdaq will hit its resistance, because the Nasdaq's resistance is not really clear. So sometimes you have to look at other assets, gold, for example, to judge when silver bottoms. Anyway, so on the upside, very clear for gold and silver. On the downside, also relatively clear. Let's look at the miners. The miners are pretty clear here. The trend lines I've deleted some. Resistance is the last high. You can see it here. You can see it here also, just before the gap starts. Also, this ascending line, I think, will be credible on the way up. So imagine we start to take it out here, end of May, for example. I would probably be quicker than that. But anyway, I think we'd still have a bit of resistance here, but it depends. If it happens very quickly, then you can't really have resistance so close to the old one. I mean, for example, if you were to immediately start to make a move up, lasting several days, and we go here, yeah, you could have a little retracement, but it's too close to the 36 zone. And by then the gap's already closed. I don't know, I'd expect something like that. The real resistance on the way up, though, which is all that really matters, because, this ascending resistance would probably just act as resistance for 1, 2, 3 days, if it happens pretty quickly. But then the real one is this descending. And I think that will take some doing to close above that. It depends. I mean, look, if gold's at 2,100 and silver's going for 30, then this descending won't really matter, to be honest, because the miners have so much catching up to do. You'd really have to zoom out and say, wait a minute, we belong at 70. So who cares about this resistance? So it always depends on other factors. But, I just like to point out that this resistance will probably play a role for 1 or 2 days. But otherwise, the major descending resistance should be the big one. On the way down, this horizontal, maybe it's more here. A nice round number, 31, probably 32, a little bit of support. But, if we're flushing, we're probably going to make more of a move. If we're closing below 33, it's not likely that we go to 32 and just bounce. I mean, unless some event is sending gold higher, but I'd expect to move low to 31. And, if we do go below that, and remember, there's a time factor too. Let's just pretend it takes several days. a little bounce. If we do start to flush, I think the ascending, just like gold and silver, but I don't think silver's ascending will actually even play a role because it's I think silver would be too strong to go that far to touch its ascending support. But yeah, GDX, I see, the current support zone 33, the next one really 31-ish, and the next one would be the ascending. I don't think we're going to go all the way down to test this 27. That would require some monumental event where it's like a liquidity event, where everyone sells everything and only the dollar and VIX are up, which I think gold is the new VIX. So actually we'd probably benefit from that, even if the dollar is up strong. GDXJ, very similar. Yeah, these two sort of are the same thing. I think on the downside, I favor the lower one. So maybe 37 more than 38. 38 seems a bit too close to 39. So, I'm going to take a gamble and just delete this one. Or I could just put it in the middle of both as a general area. Sometimes I do that just for myself. I say, okay, here is support, and it could end up being 38. It could end up being 37. But if you buy your miners when it's touching around 37.5, you've bought the zone. You're not going to buy, let's imagine it's at 37.5, you're not going to start buying when it's at 37 because you've already bought that zone. How much of a percentage move is that? 0.8, But I'll leave it here for now. Otherwise, if we lose this support, then the ascending. So very similar. Okay, cool. That's out the way. Let's go to the miners. Let's go to my portfolio. So Newmont hasn't been the strongest one. I know it's got some, what is it? Newcrest, the mine that it's merging with. Yeah, it's underperformed. I'll be honest, it's underperformed. But thankfully, I haven't added too much to this. I've actually sold it. Ever since I overbought it on the way down, I actually sold it quite well. It was my go-to mine to sell when I wasn't sure and I wanted to sell something. And because I didn't buy much on the way down, although I did buy, actually on holiday, I did buy with my little mobile phone, which I rarely use to trade. It's usually this big desktop computer I've got. But so it's back at a pretty heavy holding, but thankfully not too heavy like before. But yeah, it's underperformed, but now it's basing. You can see it's, basing several days, candles here, a bit like GDX. I don't want to go back to GDX, but you should know the chart by heart where we've got several days that we're holding. So it's starting to follow the general GDX sector a bit more, and it should make a big component. It should be a large component of the GDX, to be honest. It's basically the biggest mine. So, but there were periods where it wasn't acting the same. I like to also trade miners that follow the GDX because I'm usually looking at the GDX. So, I like to have a mine that I can depend on when it comes to movements because I'm judging everything on the GDX. It's just I like to think that my portfolio will outperform the GDX and the GDXJ. But anyway, if we move up, I see, and by the way, I can delete this, totally irrelevant now. I can see, obviously, resistance is 52-ish, 52, 53. Let's see. Honestly, I haven't touched these in days ever since my holiday. I like the descending. That's always my favorite. And then, I'm going to say this is resistance on the way up because there are two candles, the close, despite the wick. There were 2 days where it closed very close, and it's a nice round number 52. So I'm going to discount this 52.8, but I'll include it in the descending because typically the wicks are part of the descending pattern. So that's all I'm going to do for the way up. So you can see if we start to move up, gold's at 2050 for whatever reason, silver's rallying. The miners obviously are going up. Then I see, let's say it takes several days. Then I see probably 51.4. Can you see these two candles? If it goes up, because it'll take several days, 1, 2, 3 days, maybe it'll probably coincide perfectly with this descending and this. So I reckon around here, it'll find resistance. Should we go higher? 52. Should we go a little higher? It may even find 52 point. And why is that relevant? Because the way I trade, if I want to trade, let's say I want to take away 20% of my position, 10% of my position, I would actually take away 3 times 3%, right? Let's just pretend that's what I would do. I would sell a little bit here. I'm not going to do this all my miners. I don't know, little lesson. So I would do a little bit here, you know, where you have this first one, a little bit. Let me just, okay, sorry about that. So I do like that, like a machine gun, like, all right, 3% here, 3% here, and 3% there. If they get there, now I've done my full 10%, if you know what I mean, for this entire zone. So I'm out 10%. And if it keeps going, cool, I'm making more money. If it only goes to the first one, at least I sold something, and goes back down again and the whole sector collapses, at least I sold something. Whereas what I was really looking for was selling higher. So I like to do what I call machine guns, just out, 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 3 times 3% or 3.3%, whatever, you know, or 5%, 5%, 5%, out 15%. So yeah, I'm not sure why I'm going into that, but that's how I would do it. The point is, these are the levels that I've identified on the way up for Newmont. And then obviously we've got this old high over here. And if we go higher than that, then to be honest, it's got a long way to run. Newmont really has a long way to go before it reaches its high. So I like Newmont. It's also a strong, you know, dividend, although I think they cut their dividend. I'm not sure, but whatever. It's one of the best mines out there. And I like to hold senior miners when we're in this type of a, you know, environment, and obviously juniors to compensate on the way up if it gets aggressive. So Newmont, you know, sideways on the way up. On the way down, to be honest, the old low down here would count. There are no ascending lines, I don't think. I mean, I could draw. Yeah, go on. Now I've got all of them. I just don't like to have too many lines, but I think that's okay, to be honest. Not too many. So that's Newmont. One of my core holdings. Very happy with that. Very happy with those lines. Agnico-Eagle. Yeah, this one is one of the strongest seniors. Although look at this rejection here. This is one of the worst candles you can get. I mean, it did close the day green, unlike Newmont, but still, that's quite the rejection of the breakout. So let's see what happens. I think it really needs the sector to go up to justify the continuation of the move up. But for me, it suggests it wants to go up. It's just the conditions aren't there. If we go back down again, this descending, to be honest, doesn't count because it only touches 2 areas. One of them is just conveniently the last place. So I'm not sure how much it will count on the way down. Plus, if we start to close lower than this zone, 55, we're probably going to go a bit lower than 54.6. So for me, although I love the descending, I don't think this one counts. So I'm going to remove it. And to be honest, I'll just place this simple horizontal line. If we go lower, then we go lower than that descending would have accounted for. So, and then, yeah, I think this line sort of counts here. You know, it's been support for several zones. So I'll leave that in. That's Agnico-Eagle. It could always just, it could find support at 52, but I always prefer the lower support zone because usually on the way up, the move gets overextended on the way up and on the way down. So maybe it's best. And 50 is a nicer number than 52. So I will leave these horizontal lines in. And again, I might do the same thing, or do I just leave it in the middle? I'll leave it at the bottom like this. There you go. Just simple horizontal lines. This one can stay up here because this is no longer valid. We've taken it out several times, including the last day on Friday. I'll just leave it here. Okay, I mean, pretty simple stuff for Agnico-Eagle. No ascending or descending, just horizontal lines. Obviously, I go by GDX, gold, silver, and the dollar more than Agnico-Eagle. But when I think that the miners are a sell for whatever reason, because everything else that's moving, then I'll always try and, you know, either buy or sell Agnico based on its own chart pattern. Barrick gold. Simple horizontal lines. The major descending one won't come into play for a while. We need to take out this 20, close above 20. This support zone is coinciding quite well with this. So I'm going to leave this here actually, because remember, it's a bit like GDX. I mean, Barrick gold, a bit like Newmont and Agnico-Eagle. In fact, the top sort of 5 or 6 stocks I have here, maybe even 7, are all seniors, very, very tier 1 senior stock. So I think I can justify this horizontal line as the support. If it starts to close below let's say whatever this is, 1880. Then we move lower. How much lower? I'm not sure. Can I put an ascending line? Yes, I think that would count. Sometimes I have to go into a bit more detail. Could it do a 10% drop? Yes, it could actually. Maybe this is 17.5 could be support. Maybe actually, but I won't. I prefer not having enough lines and having too many. So that's all I'll leave for gold. So on the way down, you know, if we start to lose this, which could happen literally next week, I will look at the ascending support for a buy, although I'm quite happy with what I have in Barrick Gold. And I'm looking to buy some other juniors that I'm looking at. Wheaton, very strong, really very strong stuff. Great rally, flagging all the way up here. It's just holding this descending. This descending counts for me, although it should be more precise. This descending counts very well. And actually, if I was to move it to be even more precise, you can see how much it's holding. You know, it's ready to break out above 52, which means it really doesn't have much of a move left to reach its, can I say all-time high? Yes, I can. The only problem with Wheaton is that it just doesn't have that much upside, but it's such a strong senior. It's a royalty. It's just a great mine. So, you know, how much of a drop is it going to really incur? I'm not sure. I think the prior resistance could act as support. I'm going to put that in straight away. Do we have an ascending line? Not really. I don't want to force it. I prefer to take it from the last move lower. I'll leave that in, but to be honest, if we lose this, I'll leave it in, because these lines down here, I mean, you know, I'm going to delete these because I just don't see it happening. It's too much of a move down. So I'll leave this horizontal as the last major support, but I doubt we get there. We'd have to close below this ascending that I just placed. I like Wheaton very much. I just don't see very much upside, but as a defensive stock on the way down, it should be good. And, you know, it's probably going to find support quite early too. So Pan American Silver is for me another good silver stock, which is surprisingly lagging the move in the sector. So I honestly expected Pan America to be much higher than it has ventured already. I can put some ascending lines. I don't really need to actually. If it starts to lose this ascending straight away, it's lost it. I mean, it should find good support if we go low, but this one could actually test its lows pretty quickly. Think about how high we are in silver and the miners. If we start to really drop like a 10% drop in the sector, this thing is going to visit it's going to visit this low here, you know, maybe even lower. So I'm just going to leave this one line in, because knowing how high and extended the silver, gold, and the miners are, if we start to drop, I don't want to start putting in support zones just next like this. Oh, look, there's a gap here. Forget it. It's going to flush down. So, but I would buy actually a drop, because it's, I think it's a good stock. I think it's undervalued, and I think it's a senior. So it's one of the go-to ones for me if I'm looking to be sort of bit defensive in silver. On the way up, well, yeah, it needs to take out its old high. I'll just say the absolute high. It's starting to outperform though a little bit, you know, look up 1% whilst everything else was down. So at least it has that going for it. Once it starts to close above 20, and that's a nice number too, then as it starts to move up, it'll probably start testing this descending support. So no point in putting what otherwise would be another resistance, which I would say is this. There's no point really in putting this in, because I think the descending resistance would be the magnet that it would go to. So I'm going to keep it very clean and simple and just leave that like that. Goldfields, this one a bit like Wheaton, very strong, but actually stronger. You know, what's its old highs? Yeah, we've already broken out of that. It's very, very impressive. I really am shocked by how strong it is. I haven't added to it. I've trimmed, but it's worth so much. But I mean, look at this, you know, up again. I really am expecting this to come all the way back down, but it's just not happening. It's just so strong. I don't even know why. So, but now it's made such a move that I don't see too much of a percentage move left in it. So I'll just use it to sell. Basically, if I think the miner's too extended or they're going to drop, Goldfields is one of my selling go-to sell mines, because it's just, I can't buy mines that are this high, and therefore I might as well sell it and buy something else. You know, like I could sell Goldfields and put it in Pan American Silver. I mean, or one of the more aggressive junior or medium miners, for example. So Goldfields on the way down. If we start to close below 15, you can see that if I zoom in a little bit, you know, this old low, plus it's a nice round number. A close below 15, do you really think it's just going to go visit and bounce off the descending? I love descendings, but no, I think it will go probably test this gap. I like this actually. But I wouldn't even be happy at 14. I'm only happy here. So since I'm not going to buy it, if it goes to 14, I'm not even going to put the line in, because that might entice me to buy it. I honestly just old breakout zone. So 13. Well, I don't even think I'd buy that. It's just still too overextended. But I'll tell you what, if we go down to 10s, I'm going to buy the hell out of it. But I don't think it would get there. Maybe I would do a little nibble at 13 and then see what happens. It would depend on what's going on in the sector, because for Goldfields to come back down to 13, we've probably got an enormous flush going on. And there might be better buys still. So, but otherwise, you know, I'll leave these lines in because they are all justified. Maybe I delete this one. It's hard to tell actually. You've got some gaps and everything here. I'm not sure. I don't think I'll go all the way down to 9, but maybe 1050. 1050, maybe 9.5. You know, this one here actually, I'll leave 9.5. It's quite a lot of this ascending, I think, is totally irrelevant. It's not even working. I'm going to delete that. And this descending is not even working either. Yeah, whatever. I don't think we'll get there. So otherwise, very, very strong. On the way up, yeah, just the old high, $17. After that, this, you know, this is what I drew in GDX. So I think this would actually count. But by then, we're where the chart doesn't even go anymore. We'd go at probably $20. Probably $20, to be honest. And then I honestly, I would just sell the whole position. If we get to 20, I sell the whole position. I don't care what's going on. It would just be the perfect move. And at some point, you've got to sell. People have a problem selling. I know how to sell small amounts, but to close positions entirely of mines that I like, that I've held for a while, it's rare that I've done it. But here I would do it. I just said, all right, I'm out. Goldfields, thanks for the money. Ciao. And then I'll just put that money elsewhere, half in dollars, half in probably a junior silver or something. So that's Goldfields. Mag Silver. Let me reset the chart. This one has been a bit like Pan American Silver, really underperforming, but otherwise a strong senior. The first thing I look for is always the descending. Yeah, it was probably valid there, but we broke out of it, so it doesn't count. That's probably why I don't have it. Yeah, so it's going sideways here, a bit like GDX. On the way up, yeah, for this old high of just under 1450. After that, to be honest, we'll probably clear 15. I'll leave that for now. I just don't see the strength in it, so I don't see the point in readjusting the resistance on the way up. Let's just take out 1450, then I can readjust it. This ascending is totally irrelevant. On the way down, no point in sticking in some ascending, you know, because imagine just tomorrow we could close below, and then what? I'm supposed to react? No. If it's too steep or too close, there's no point. Quite simply, a close below 1250 for me would mean we're going to go lower. And if we go lower, no point in trying to find this little 1150. It's just going to be the ascending, isn't it? Look at it. Here, here, here. So it's strong support. It's also the only clear support. So I'm just going to leave this as it is. Quite disappointed in Mag Silver. It was really good back here. I remember it was outperforming. It was really good. But since then, just not impressed, and therefore haven't bought. Okay, TPRFF, Aris Mining, used to be known as Gold Colombia. So this one, let me get rid of this. Quite weak, huh? Quite weak, but still you can see this sort of 2.8 zone is trying to be support. I think if you lose that, then yeah, okay, 2.6. It's a strange one, to be honest. It's not that liquid either. So I would say 2.65-ish is the bottom, the support. Otherwise, we're at a mini support zone. On the way up, this descending, I think, definitely counts. Look, from here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and plus it's spanning, 2 years. So the length, the duration, and the amount of times it's come into contact just adds to the credibility. Although I should move it down a bit. So resistance on the way up, no point in putting any horizontal lines like 330. It's simply the descending line. On the way down, I think where it is support, but because it's a bit of an illiquid, the spread between the bid and the ask sometimes ruins it. I'm just going to say 2.65. If we go lower than that, well, yeah, I guess 2.4-ish. I'll add that in because I don't want to put the absolute low as the next support. It wouldn't really be correct. $2. Would I buy? Yeah, I would. Actually, $2 is probably not correct. Just above that, 210, 211, something like that. So just above 2 is probably a good buy zone, seeing that's the COVID low, and this stock has really done well since. I don't follow too much, but what I've heard, I'm quite happy with. It also made a nice merger, so that accounts for a bit of the drop. But I like this stock, and I would have no problem adding to it. It's just, I feel like if we have a massive collapse in the sector, I'm not going to be buying at 2.6. It's just too close. I think I could get it much lower. So that's why I'm adding these horizontal lines. Fortuna. I'm not sure if this descending counts anymore because we broke out of it. And plus $4 is obvious zone. So I'm going to remove the descending line. It's going sideways. If we have a move up, yeah, definitely 420 is resistance. So if you want to sell 419, 418. If we close above 420, so 421 or higher, then yeah, this zone 450, 60. You can see I try to make an average here. I suppose it's supposed to be 470, but because of this candle here, I'll just leave this horizontal line. By the way, the boldness of the lines, you can ignore that. I just haven't had time to change them all to 1. So it doesn't mean one is more of a stronger resistance than the other. It's just I haven't had time. Ascending support, would it count? Again, I'm going to say no, because imagine I left it in. If we have a close below 360, the next day we're testing all below this, and I don't think it would count. So that's probably why I've already removed that. I think this horizontal line counts. It was resistance here, found support here, kind of, and then here. So I call it between 3 and 320 sort of support zone. So actually nothing to change here. I like Fortuna. I just don't like where it is jurisdictionally. So, Latin America's, there is no perfect jurisdiction anymore for miners. It's even North America, Canada, America, it's nowhere is perfect. So you might as well go to Africa, to be honest. But anyway, on the way up, clear resistance, clear support. If we go lower, I might as well draw it in just in case it happens. There you go. I'm not going to draw the all-time low. It's obvious, and I don't think we'll get there. So clear horizontal lines, Coeur d'Alene. This one I didn't expect to come down as much as it did. The descending line, I think, does count. It goes back, also since 2 years. So 1, 2, and then 3, we broke out of it just now, actually, recently on this move up. We still haven't retested it. That's why I keep it in. So a retest should be support. Otherwise, this ascending, which is actually starting to crisscross soon, should also act as support. Otherwise, this sort of $3 zone, or just below 2.9, is also support. I'm not going to bother with the horizontal. It's just because it will ruin the chart. It'll sort of hurt the eyes, but it would count. When you look at that, you can see this general area here is strong support, but normally you'd find support just above because too many people are waiting there. So for me, it's a very good buy. I've added to it actually on the way down. I'm pretty heavy in this one now. I like this one for a move up, and I honestly I believe silver is going to make a move, and if it does, this stock really moves. So for me, I'm pretty heavy in this. I don't really want to buy unless we get down here. So low threes, quite simply low threes, lower than it is now. But I think it's great. On the way up, I don't think there's any resistance on the way up until we get to not even 4. I think it would be sort of the old 4.3 to 4.5 zone. So look, I'll move this up here. Not to give myself the false signal that it stems from all the way back there. And, you know, generally this line here, which has been resistance for 1, 2, and kind of 3 here. We had several failures. So yeah, I'm just going to leave these 2 lines. I'll change the boldness later. I'm not going to bore you with that, but it needs to rally soon because, yeah, you know, the chart is starting to look a bit dangerous. You don't want to start breaking down. Thing is, if the miners start to collapse, then this thing can go to below 3, and then I think it would be super strong support though. I mean, this is something I would really start to buy aggressively. If we start to lose this 3 zone and start to flush 2.5, I would be losing quite a bit actually in this miner. But I think this is one of the mines that if you buy and you catch the low in this mine and you start to see some fantastic moves in gold and silver, you can retire on this mine alone. I love this mine for pops. It's just so strong. I always just look at the value and think, my God, why is it worth this much? And I keep selling on the way up because it's just worth too much. But then on the down moves, I'm like, okay, so this is my biggest loser for the same reason. You know, it has big moves, but I love it. Okay, EXK. Yeah, you can see the difference between CDE and EXK. I always compare them, but much less of a move down and a much stronger move up. Look, obviously cleared this triple resistance here. This is like a quadruple breakout of 3.9. Closed, went right into the 4s, 4.5, filled the gap, came back down. Now we're finding support at 3.9, which is prior resistance. This is absolutely perfect. By the way, I'll get rid of this. If we move up, then no, this wouldn't even count, I don't think. To go from 4 to 4.2 is like 5% move. It's nothing. Could be done in one day. And plus, you know, we're probably going to be testing the highs at that point. So I'll leave this one in. Was it the old high? I'll do a general line where it's, yeah, okay, 4.4, 4.5, nice number. I don't think this is absolutely accurate. It'd probably be 4.55, but who cares? You know, between 4.45 and 4.55 is 0 difference. So on the way up, we've got this resistance. If we start to go higher, I don't see why. Think about what's happening if we're going higher. It means gold is at 2050, 2060, silver's at 26, going for 27. This thing is going to be a rocket ship. So of course it's going to go all the way up here. Plus there's no obvious resistance. Is 520 resistance? No, 5 is not even resistance. So straight up to 5.6, yeah, the old high basically. So I'll leave it as it is. Perfect. Nothing needs to change here. There's no ascending. I mean, if I draw an ascending, maybe, actually maybe, if we start to come back down, we start to flush, I can see here a few candle lows, but it's probably the ascending. I'll leave the ascending. But otherwise, right now, it's acting technically perfectly. First Majestic, to be honest, after that news, I bought that, loved it, sold on the way up, and then left what I had. And to be honest, I thought First Majestic would come down more because look at this crazy move. Just filled the gap, just, you know, ended up higher than before the bad news. Well, I thought it was actually quite good news that they stopped their most cost-draining mine in Nevada, I think it was, but whatever. Now we're sort of basing and, you know, a move back up. This one can go. A move back up and we'll be testing the old high. By that, I mean $8. So $8 is resistance on the way up. After that, yeah, 8.4. It should be easy to get to, but I think that's still resistance. After that, the descending, which hits this zone. Okay, kind of. Not the best descending because it doesn't even touch these two, but it does touch here. And this was a while ago. But more importantly, maybe, is that by then it's also testing this horizontal, which was the high from back that, this period, like December, January. So that means it's probably going to coincide. Imagine a move up, 1, 2, kind of this zone. Yeah, I'll leave it as it is. I'll leave it as it is. On the way down, honestly, there's only one zone of support, and that's the ascending, which worked last time, which is why I bought. Look, this stems like a decade pretty much from here through there, through there. This is very credible stuff for me. And what's this line? I don't even remember drawing it. 1, 2. Okay, that one is some backup just in case. But actually, you know what? This backup on down here might even prove useful. Imagine we have a flush in the whole sector, and for some reason, First Majestic is closing below 550. You see this low of Corona days, it would probably coincide with this ascending that I've got stemming back from like 2 decades. Let me just change the chart a little bit. Imagine we start to close below here. Bam, look at them, they intersect. And trust me, these things work. Let me go to the weekly. I didn't even notice this. Yeah, look at that. That is not some random piece of art. That's literally the ascending going back from 2009. This is financial crisis #1. Then the 2016 low keeps going, was never touched by Corona days. We made just a random low in midair. But yeah, a horizontal line through here would maybe coincide with the last 2 lows before that. Amazing. Okay, well, we might not even get there, but I'll leave it in because that should be strong support, actually, really strong support. But I still think the ascending that I've drawn here, the bolder one, would be a support. It fails to go through, actually, because it's very strong. So anyway, on the way down, I'm not putting any horizontal like, 620 or $6, nice psychological number. Nah, just the ascending. And I'd be buying above because it never even got to it here. Okay, cool. That's First Majestic. On the way up, yeah, I covered that. Discovery. This one has come down a bit like CDE. This one's come down a lot more than I thought. I love this mine. I don't even know why. I think it's because I remember back during these days, it was really strong and it was the go-to one. I also follow a few people who really rate this one. Everyone that covers silver, almost everyone that I know that covers silver, that knows miners more than me, they always mention Discovery. So I also heard a recent interview with the CEO, and I think the worst is over. They did a dilution, which also adds to the drop. And also technically, I think it's really got a lot of support. Basically, I like it. I've added to it. It is my heaviest holding. I can't believe it. A silver junior is heavier than Newmont, just by a few dollars, actually. I really like it. I've added to it. I really hope it doesn't go lower. This is one of the mines that I really don't want to see go lower because I don't want to add to it. But if it does go lower, then it's probably because the sector's going lower because it's already had its bad news. And therefore, I would kind of enjoy it because it means I get to buy other miners. But otherwise, I kind of would want to see it go up now. On the way up, $90 has been a bit of support, a bit of resistance. I'm going to leave that in. 70, yeah, low 70s so far, 76, 75 has been support. I'm just going to leave low 70s because of this history over here. In fact, just a little higher, let's say 74-ish. And yeah, the absolute low from before that, the 64 low. If we go lower than that, I'll see, it's probably going to be the $50 zone. I'll draw that in just so that I don't freak out if I start to see it go lower. At least I know that there is some support. You can see it here, resistance. I know it goes above it, but just generally also support here. I like that it breaks out and it retests, even though it's sort of 52 or whatever. Just 50 because it's a nice psychological number and it's going to be a vacuum. So usually psychological round numbers come into play when people think they've lost full support. So I like it. On the way up, you can see the horizontal lines. If we start to break out of the descending, then I do expect a run. We'll probably stop off at 110 though at this point. before going to 120. I know this one might have a bit too many lines, but they're big percentage moves, so I'll leave them in. Okay, Turmalina. This is one of the very illiquid, strange ones. I have very little in these three. Whenever I cover them, I always reiterate that, because unlike Discovery and all these other ones that are worth 3 to 4 times the amount of these ones I don't really care too much, although I would obviously prefer if they actually make a move. Here you can see the descending, very credible, hits it 3 times. So despite being illiquid, it definitely adheres to technicals. We're basically at support, although we did close below it, but still we're at 20. So I think that's the same thing. On the way up, 34 was the high here. Does that really count? You know what? I don't think so, because the descending is going to be so close and it's so credible going back years that I think that would be the bigger magnet for resistance. So we're at absolute lows. I mean, what's the difference between 20 and 16.5? It's quite a lot percentage wise, but nothing when you're looking at an illiquid junior. So we're at all-time lows, and the only resistance on the upside is the biggest resistance, the descending. So there you go. And it's true, if we start to close above this descending, the next resistance obviously is this zone here. It was the high back there. Also the recent one, which I took full advantage on. I sold this quite a bit and I bought back. This one I've made money on. I don't really care if it goes lower. I don't want it to. But if it was just to go a little higher, I'd be again in the money. And I don't know. I don't know if I would close in position here, because this one just needs one news release and we're straight back up again. It's just one of those mines that for me is good. Doesn't really have many problems. I'm not sure about financing, but it's good. And whenever there's a news release, it just screams up when there's a bit of volume. So I actually quite like this one. TGLDF, Trillium. This used to be my favorite of the 3. Now it's the worst of the 3, but the worst days seem to be behind it when it was in the 0.07 zone. It did seem to move up with the pop in the miners and stuff. It's not the biggest move up, but at least it moved up, because it was really acting so weird that I wouldn't have been surprised if it didn't move up at all, despite the massive move in gold and silver. You know, this one's, where it is, like Red Lake or something. It's in some very, very good jurisdiction, surrounded by very good mines. It's got great results, you know, et cetera, et cetera. It's a good mine. I'm not sure about financing. It's always the same problem with these little juniors. But again, I think one small news release was straight back up like 100% in a day. I've never seen that happen, but 100% in a week or something can happen any moment. And it hasn't come back down too much. So, and I'm not even sure how much technically it respects charts, but if it does, then I don't know. I'm just holding it. You know, I'm just holding. I don't have much in it. And I do think that it will pop. And if it does, I make all my money back very quickly. If it gets to 20, that's it. But I'd probably be so euphoric, I'd probably not sell all of it, probably sell half and keep the rest in case of a massive move. I mean, I don't know. I wish I went on holiday, came back and realized, oh my God, Trillium's at 70 cents. I'd retire. I just think that if it started to move up, I would be too impatient and just sell like half probably. Okay, Reyna. Yeah, holding its lows. You can see why I put this line in. It's the lows. Yeah, it's the absolute lows. Generally, obviously, the absolute lows are 17, but you know, generally this 18-ish zone seems to be more support. You know, good mine, good. It's Mexico, but it's owned by a local. And again, this one popped really nicely. I sold into it, came back down. Thank God I didn't buy quickly, because I had other mines to buy. Plus, I know juniors can always go down and stay down longer. And then I bought some at the bottom of the seabed. I just didn't sell this move because I thought we'd do more. But now we're back where I bought the last tranche. Honestly, if we start to move up, obviously next resistance is the last high. But I think I'm not going to care about that. I'm looking for a move back to a higher zone, 30. That's a nice number. And then the old high, I'd sell into that. I probably wouldn't sell 20, 24.50. I'd probably sell 30 and higher. Finally, US gold call. This one I bought because I was looking to buy miners, which I'm still looking to do. Came all the way back down again. I bought, honestly, it did pop back up. I trimmed a little bit just below 5 and I bought it back. I'm like up a tiny bit. It's absolutely at its lows. And I'm just, this setting doesn't really count. Let me zoom out to show you, as you can see, I was watching it before. That's what these lines are for. I mean, I can delete them. They're not really relevant, but yeah, I'm in the money. It's not worth that much. You can see I put it in with the other 3 because it's worth the same. Together, these 4 are probably worth like Barrick Gold. So, but still, I don't like to lose money randomly. I think this one will move back up because it's just had a full retracement of the move. I don't even know why. I don't care. As long as it's not going bankrupt, I think if gold and silver make a big move, this one basically goes back up to 7.5. So I haven't even put in resistance because I know that I'm going to be all out before this 7.5 zone, probably before 6.5. So I'm not going to put any levels in. This is just one I watch now and then. If I see it up, 10, 20% in a day, then I'll start looking at it. And I don't actually want to put trend lines in this one because it's a very short-term hold. It's just like a swing trade. I said I was going to cover so much in quite a lot of detail. I know it's going on too long, so I'm not going to cover all of those miners that I said. I will, however, cover very quickly the juniors I'm looking to buy. So Brixton Metals, why? Because I followed it. I like it. I think it's had a nice move up here. I think it's because of news, and it's come back down again. I think it's had another set of good news, but it's just not moved. I'm used to minor juniors, especially, that just don't move when they should. But generally, they will eventually make the move they should make. And this one has come all the way back down. This is whilst gold and silver was going all the way up. It was going back down because that's what this stock needed to do. And it's back at its lows, although a little higher, which I actually like. If it was trading at its absolute lows, it's not ideal. But here, we were up on a down sort of day. And you can see it's sort of got good support around this 12 zone. So I think I might buy my first tranche of Brixton. And if it moves back up, then I'll be selling before it hits its old high. Maybe 20 is a good zone, nice number, just in case it doesn't go above. So I could just do like a buy now and sell here, out, in, out, buy. That's what I'm thinking of doing. So I'll just leave a little target here to say, but again, I'm looking to buy these if the whole sector goes down. If the whole sector goes down, to be honest, it probably will get back down to here. So I'll just leave these 2. I'll leave a target there just to remind myself. So this is my juniors buy list, taken from all the other miners. Another one is Cabral Gold. This is simply because I've seen it recommended and I saw quite a few recommended and I like the risk reward ratio on it. And I just looked at it and it's so low that it'll probably have a spike, like one of these spikes. You can just get in and out. I think the descending line that I drew is credible though. So this one, again, I'll leave a little target. How much lower will it go if we have a drop in the sector? I don't know. You could just see it not go down. These juniors, sometimes it's a good place to hide hide in juniors because they just don't follow the market down. They're just being crushed. There are no more sellers. But if they start to move down, you can lose, all your money straight away too. So I shouldn't be recommending hiding in juniors. On the way up, honestly, I don't see any crazy horizontal line. Maybe this. I think the descending one will act as resistance. So I'd probably sell into that. So no point in adding any more lines. Here we can see the low from when it was really established. It's pretty much coinciding with the low here. So I'll just draw these 2 lines, keep it simple. Next one, Silver Tiger Metals. I think this is a bit more known. I don't know, should I put an ascending? No point with there already, but I'll just draw it in to remind me. What about descending? Always my favorite lines. Yeah, might as well link them up. You can see this one is really underperforming, but it comes recommended, moderate risk. It's a silver stock. Again, I'm looking to buy it if there's a drop. If there is a drop, does it go down with the sector? I think it would a bit. Probably get to 20. I'll just leave my target there. But again, this is this is one of, what is it, 6 stocks that I'm looking to buy once the sector's flushing and seems to have stopped flushing. So there's no point in me getting too strict about where I'm going to buy. It could end up really flushing, and I hope it does, because then I can buy it cheaper, but I'll just leave the target there. I'll leave these two lines in. And if there's a flush, it'll probably last several days, so probably could get there. Next one, Investigators Resources, love the name. This one looks strong, looks good. So this one, I think I can be a bit more pronounced about where my entry might be. So you can see support generally around, well, what is it, 0.04, right, thereabouts. And this descending breakout it had, if it does a back test, it will probably coincide. This one probably would go down if the sector goes down and retests. But this one, I'm going to be a bit more confident about the buy. I think the first entrance here would be good. This one comes very well recommended. And it would be my first Australian mine. Never held an Australian. It's always American and Canadian. And usually I hold a lot of Canadian stocks on the OTC because then I don't have to do all this conversion stuff. This one's good though. I like this one. Resistance, well, no point in putting resistance because first I have to own it before I can sell it. I'm not going to short it. But obviously this one would be resistance here. Bear Creek, another one that comes very well recommended. It's already experienced quite the retracement. So if there's a flush in the markets, honestly, it could go all the way back down again. How far back down? I mean, look, we're talking about absolute lows. Prefer to go all the way back. And, you know, it couldn't, because, yeah, okay, it goes lower, but look how many times it hits this. It hits it here and there. So it's like a reverse head and shoulders. So I prefer 0.34 than 0.28 and then missing it because I'm too greedy on the way down. So I'll leave that resistance on the way up. Quite simply the old high, but first let's buy it. You know, buying the first tranche now would probably be a good idea, but not the strongest chart. And I'm not in a hurry, and I'm looking to buy this after a drop. Finally, Go Gold. This one's the most liquid. I would call this almost no, I'm not going to call it a senior, but less of a junior than the others, if I can say that. Yeah, this one comes well recommended. The risk reward, the insider, I mean, all the elements that I look at. This is the one I'd probably be most confident in. Descending, yeah, I love it when it has a descending that I can trade on. Look at this, 4 times 1, 2, 3, 4, spanning several months. So, and look, we're curling here. This is actually probably a good entry. This is a great entry, but this is a good entry if miners, gold, silver, and miners start to move up. I'll tell you that, because it will probably revisit 1.7 very quickly. But I'm looking to buy these on the way down. Look at that. You could make 30% in 1 week if miners start to make a serious move with gold and silver, like gold attacking 2060, 2100. If we have another move down, honestly, I would be surprised if this one moves lower because it's been oversold. You can just see it. I love this chart. I used to do a lot of swing trading, and this is looking very, very basey. You know, it's like what I call the curl. Like the candle on Monday, regardless of what happens in the sector, will probably close above 1.31. And then you'd have the, you know, what's called the candle over candle bounce to the next resistance, which probably, I don't know, 1.45. But yeah, this one I feel like buying probably the most. I'll put a little red ticker there. But still, stick to your strategy. Don't be too aggressive. If we move lower, what an amazing buy at 110 and 1. But will it get to 1? That's the question. And if I zoom out, look at this. Very strong, you know, COVID low of 27 cents. And then it just, obviously there must have been good news. It's a good mine. We found stuff. We're producing stuff. I don't know the whole story. I don't really care. But look at this, beautiful. And then it's forced down because of the bear market. Everyone's going down. And it's just, you know, look at this. It's found strong support where it used to have support here. I really like this. It's just very strong, and you can see that it deserves to be higher than where it is. If it goes lower, you should be very lucky to have it here. If it starts to flush, I mean, unless it's going bankrupt and there's some serious unsound financial misdemeanors going on, it's a great buy. So I will put a support zone here, but honestly, I don't think it will get there. It doesn't belong there, and it's probably a buy right now. So I'll leave the little red ticker. Okay, guys, I'm done. I'm exhausted. I don't know. I was planning to cover all of these. It's ridiculous, but I did cover my portfolio. All the juniors I'm looking to buy. You probably know some other ones. I was also looking at Aris Silver. You can see I've set in some lines. Aftermath Silver, not the best, but you know, some aggressive silver juniors. I think that's what I'm trying to portray here. Like I'm looking for some aggressive silver juniors in particular, but not only, also some gold if there's another move down. So anyway, that'll do. Sorry for eating up all your time. I hope you appreciate that. Let me know what you think, etc., etc.